Welcome to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the Artist First Radio Network. All past shows are podcasts. Pick them up at artistfirst.com. We welcome your questions and comments. Please use DJ at artistfirst.com. Now your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
And thank you very much, Mr. Scott. And the warp engines are fine.
All righty.
I'm Michael Lyons.
Mm-hmm. And I'm Margaret.
Yes. And she's Margaret. And here we are again. When Mr. Scott announces us, he sounds just a little like, here they are again. Gosh darn it.
You're reading an awful lot into things here.
No, I'm sure that's not true. That's just what we feel like. Here we are again. Gosh darn it.
Is that how you feel?
No, I'm having the time of my life, as far as anyone knows.
I see. Oh my.
I am. I think to digress for just a second, this has been fun. We've been doing this well over 6 years now.
Yes, this is true.
This is true, and we have our loyal audience of one.
Okay.
Very loyal.
Would you?
Hi out there. Maybe there's two.
All
right. Well, anyway, we are going to live this show as we live all of our shows in the moment of now and to the fullest.
Okay. Yes. We are trying to communicate completely in this moment of now, not off on some tangent somewhere.
That would be my job.
Mm-hmm.
I am Mr. Tangent.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, tonight we are going to talk a little bit. We are going to delve into the Bible, which is not necessarily the topic we always, the book we always go into, but this particular passage that Margaret found is, I think, very. First of all, it's a very seminal and very famous passage from Deuteronomy, and we're going to read it in a moment. I don't know if you want to read the one in full, because the quote is a slightly abbreviated version, but that's up to you. And then I think what we're going to do is relate it to where we are now, because one thing, love it or hate it, the Bible, and perhaps this one particularly is the King James, has been around a very long time, and it's got a lot of relevance to human beings in every age. And yes, it's been used for all kinds of things, but many other books have been used for all kinds of things. At the end of the day, and you saw this when Peterson beautifully went through with his whole group of people through Exodus.
Jordan Peterson
went through Exodus, and that I would recommend that series. It's like a 13 or 15-part series that you can still find, I think, on YouTube, at least in pieces, to anyone, because he did a beautiful, he and the group of scholars and other folks that he assembled there did a beautiful, relevant. It's not really an exposition, but sort of a interpretation of Exodus to the modern day, and just went so deeply into the symbolism and how it relates to the present time.
Well, it was a in-depth understanding from many varied viewpoints of the writing in Exodus, and they're very good at describing what the Jewish people's mindset was during the time, what was the Egyptian mindset, understanding what the foundation of this was, and different customs, but also understanding that when it's speaking through spirit, there is much by way of wisdom that is written in it. And this is why this particular passage stood out so strongly.
Well, we're going to talk about.
Yes.
Which is from Deuteronomy, not Exodus, but it is in the Pentateuch.
Yes.
The five original books of the Hebrew Bible. Anyway, so do you want to do the quote? Are you ready for that?
Sure. This is Deuteronomy 30:19. I have set before you life and death, blessings and cursings. Now choose life so that you and your children may live. And the question rose, choose life. It seems like it would be a very obvious thing. But when you realize that your choices bespeak the foundation of your motivation for that choice, it's vitally important, because at the core of it, are you choosing life and the various possibilities that life can offer, or are you choosing death, or what I'd like to term as little deaths? Because there are a number of little deaths that make themselves known in your everyday life. It's just you don't realize that you're actually choosing a little death. And that's what sparked all this for me.
You might want to expound upon that a little bit, though. I mean, as far as what a little death is.
Mm-hmm. If you are in a situation and you have a choice between keeping the peace and pushing towards conflict, what do you choose? And a lot of people will just say, well, no, I'm right. Being right is more important, no matter what the issue is, than choosing to maintain a level of peace or peacefulness. And when you do that, it's a little death. Or being angry because somebody, let's say, is doing something stupid. And you look at that, and you have a choice in that instant to choose taking a step into anger and basically saying, this is more than a little annoying. You don't know what you're talking about. Or looking at this and choosing a different way in order to begin to present to this person. You don't have to come to conflict. And that's very tricky, actually, to do that. But there is a quality within you that can help you refuse to feel angry. Refuse to be angry and refuse to feel anger. Isn't that an interesting thought? That you can actually choose not to feel angry. And how do you do that? And gentleness is a quality that usually overrides all of that. If you choose gentleness, you look at this and you go, because it's a very marked mind shift when you shift from anger to gentleness. And this is what I mean by little deaths. Little death. Anger is a little death.
Well, what I would say is the little death. I mean, I hear exactly what you're saying there, but each one of those is a moving out of the present moment of now, a moving out of your being state into some form of egoic state, if we talk about it in the terms that Tolle would use. And I think what Deuteronomy is saying is very, very wise in that sense. This is, I think, who's speaking here? Is it Moses or is it one of his deputies? But in any case,
no. Moses is the vehicle. It's God speaking at that point.
Right. Obviously, it is God speaking. But the point is that the choice of between life and death, blessings and curses, now choose life, is the admonition to remain in the present moment of now, And what Margaret was just saying, these distractions, which, are very subtle and they're very seductive. Okay, when somebody comes at you, and we've talked about this many times in the past, with an accusation, or they give offense, they come at you with some, mindless drivel that's pulling you out of what you're doing. You're in the middle of something, you're busy, you've got things going on, and somebody comes in with something mindless or some, as you just said, somebody who's acting stupidly or inconsiderately just kind of barges in and starts to make noise or make trouble, make confusion. And the very seductive and sort of immediate thing is to react, is to allow them, in essence, to take you away from your present state of mind, take you away from the being moment of now, and into their little gyre, into their little energy, into their story, right? So we've talked about many times the little monk who is accused of doing something. I don't have to go into the story. And his response is that so? Whether he says it out loud or just within his own mind. And that gives you that gap that Margaret just spoke about. You have that moment where you put a barrier between you and this burgeoning distraction, this thing that's just popped up out of the universe, which says, look at me, deal with me. I'm going to be your next, whatever number of moments, hours, days, who knows what. I want to grab your energy. I want to grab your attention. I want to use it for my own purposes. And I'm going to do that by attacking you or by distracting you or by just being in your way, frustrating you, making you angry or making you deal with me in some way, right? And so this moment of choice, this moment of is that so? No, it's not so. And so I give myself that moment. I say, in the present moment of now, this thing has come at me, this barking dog, this distraction, this attack. And I have the moment of choice. Do I want to engage? Do I want to become angry, feel angry, or be angry, which is even worse? Being angry means you really leapt into it, but become angry, react, defend, attack, engage, deal with this person as though they were coming at you with presence and being, but they don't want your presence, they don't want your being, they just want your energy. They just want to suck, and we all know this. You can feel them latching on. You can feel this sort of tendril of, I want to get your attention and I want to then draw some energy from you. Those are little deaths because they're taking something away from you. What are they taking away from you? Your precious life energy, your key, your spirit, which should be fully engaged in the moment of now to the greatest extent possible that you can be, is grabbed by this other egoic entity and used for its own purposes, and they, in essence, put you in a little death. The amount of time that you spend living in their story, or living in the past where they want to drag you, or dragging you into the present, dragging you either into fear and anxiety, dragging you into fear and anxiety, which is the future. What's going to happen? How's it going to happen? What's going to do? What's going to do this? Or dragging you into the past. Oh, if only this, if only that, if this hadn't happened, if that hadn't happened, if you hadn't done this, if you hadn't done that, I blame you for everything. I blame, all dragged into the past. Or dragging you off into their story. I saw that you did, and you did this, and I did that, and go back and forth, back and forth. Everything out of the moment of now, all taking all of your energy, or as much as they can grab, as much as your life as they can grab and spin up and use. And what are they doing? They're killing you a little. You can feel it. You can feel this little death as you engage in this. And it feels bad, right? It really does feel bad. It feels like you're being used. And if you continually allow this to happen, you exhaust yourself. You find yourself with less and less and less life within you, and all of it tied up in all these stories or these negative past things or these anxious future things. And you're like, where's my life? I don't have a life anymore. I just have all these spinning whirls of energy that are sucking out of me.
Right. being fed off of, and you wonder why you're exhausted.
You become this host to parasites.
Well, it's, again, understanding that it was something that you allowed. And when you realize that that connection, though it's established now, it doesn't need to be. You don't need to stay there.
You have that power, and that's almost the first step that you have to use to disengage from this.
Yes, to take it back, even if you think that somehow you've signed a contract with the devil himself. All right? You have to understand that you can't sell your spark of life. It doesn't actually belong to you.
That's interesting.
It belongs to the greater, that which it's a part of. And the soul part is that conglomerate of experiences through your lifetime that your spirit and your body have had, and it is part of what makes up the soul. That's why if the devil's making a contract with you, he's not trying to take your spirit, because you could never touch it. But the soul, which is that conglomerate part, that's what he's after, because it can be manipulated. And the way to manipulate it on his terms is to bring you down into this low frequency of death. Death choices bring you down into a realm where he can manipulate you. And you have to give permission for that in order to have it happen. And it doesn't need to be. Your soul is yours. You can't sell it, even though that is the illusion. You can actually come back from it by linking into your eternal spirit and that which is, has been, and always will be. And ask for redemption. That's the way. You must command for the redemption. You must give permission for it. So it's fascinating when you think of it, because all these little deaths are actually, if you realize it, ways that you are being controlled by something that doesn't understand the height of your spirit, the magnitude of your ability to create, to love. Oh my, to love? We're here to learn how to love unconditionally. There's not many others that are capable of doing that. And in order to learn how to love unconditionally, it dictates having a soul. It's truly amazing. So when you are given a choice, coming back to discerning what the situation actually is in front of you and choosing otherwise. In other words, let's say you're in a situation where you have the upper hand on something. And it's not that someone did bad or no, it could be someone did something bad to you. Do you choose revenge? Or do you choose to forgive? But it doesn't mean that you forget, all right? But do you forgive? Because if you don't forgive, it means that you're going to be trapped in that lower frequency deed, in that lowness, the horror, or whatever it may be, the badness that this person did to you. And you do not deserve the badness. That's the other thing. You must realize that you are so much more than what you are experiencing. You are so much more.
Absolutely. And I wanted to go back because you said something very interesting, I think, in the beginning of that, which is that these you mentioned, that the figure of the bargaining with the devil, and that reminds me always of Faust, because there's that lovely scene where he makes this bargain with Mephistopheles, or whatever the heck it is. Mephistopheles. I can't say that because it's got too many fifths in it. But anyway, so Mephistopheles and Faust. But in fact, people say, oh, well, that's just back in the 16th century, whatever the heck it was. No, people make bargains with the devil, quote unquote, all the time. And really, what Margaret just said are those bargains, those little deaths. When you put a piece of your soul out for a bargain, what you're doing is, in essence, giving away or putting I totally would say it'll be like an entity or a pain body, a piece of you, which is now dedicated to, or at least that the energy that has been embodied in this entity, this pain body entity, is dedicated to and is triggered by this particular offense, or this particular tragedy, or this particular wound, something that happened to you, or something that you fear will happen to you, because it can be in both directions. And these entities, they take over they attempt to take over your being state. They, in essence, literally, both are a place where you put part of your soul, part of your energy, your emotions, your thoughts, and in some ways your being, but not really your being, but what is now kind of being identified by the ego as the being. And they acquire a sort of a presence within the consciousness, and they acquire a voice within the consciousness. And we all know about these voices. And they are a death in the sense that they have removed you, or are standing in the way of your actual experience. What Margaret was saying earlier, just a few moments ago. We're here to learn unconditional love. We're here to experience being in incarnation, in a body, with a soul, from spirit, in this present space, in this common dreaming of the common dream, right? So here we all are. These little deaths are little pits. They're little gyres. They're little whirlpools of energy that acquire a voice, and they acquire certain characteristics. They can be a voice from your past of someone who hurt you. They can be a voice of constantly telling you that you're less than, and that you're worthless, or that you're, you can find all different types of these neuroses and psychoses, and they have all different names. But each one of them has a common theme, and that common theme is that they stand in the way of your true present being. They stand in the way, constantly jabbering away in the corners of your consciousness about what could happen and what will happen and what has happened, and oh, this one is doing this and that one's doing that, and they've got their stories, and they've got all the things that they want to distract you with. And they're the entities that will easily react to and drag your whole energy state to a low frequency, which can be manipulated and controlled by another, by some attack, or by some distraction, or by some just imagined situation of offense, or something that makes you afraid, or something that makes you angry, and makes you, in the sense, pay attention to this little whirlpool of energy, this little death, because it's sucking the life. People say this phrase, sucking the life out of me. It really is sucking the life out of you, not that it's diminishing your being in any way, but it's diminishing your ability to be present, to experience the incarnation fully, to learn what you're here to learn, to interact, to relate to the other, being to being. Well, you put all these little deaths in the way, and they themselves become very inappropriately the stand-in for relationships. Instead of having a true relationship with another being, you have a relationship with this made-up entity, which is only there because it wants your attention, it wants your energy, and it'll take any situation that invokes it, that triggers it, and pop up and immediately command attention, immediately grab as much energy as it possibly can, immediately throw you into an emotional state, put all kinds of mental concepts into your mind, so have you reinterpreting all sorts of actions into one motive or another motive, whether or not they're true, almost always never true, you know, and it's all. Why is it a death? Because it's not alive. It's not real. It is nothing but a shadow play. It's like Plato's The Cave. You're literally throwing yourself at shadows. You're literally in putting your energy, all of your eternal flame, your spirit, into this shadow play. You know, it's doing nothing for you except distracting you from the present moment of now. And these are the deaths. This, you know, God says in this passage, I have set before you life and death. And I wanted to talk a little bit later about how this sort of echoes the garden. But I've set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Yes, the world is all around you. You have the power to do all these things. I give you full autonomy. You can choose death if you want to. And you always have the choice. Margaret said it earlier. You always have the choice. You have to give permission for these things. Whether you think you are or not, you are. What's the admonition? Now, which is the great word to use in this context, now, choose life.
Mm-hmm. Choose life. And I know for myself, I'm thinking of this. You don't think of, you know, little choices as, well, you know, it's just this. It's not significant enough. It's not going to impact my life. But it's a little bit at a time.
Yes.
Taking the energy that you have and off it goes someplace else. And when you realize it, do you really want to continue having this concept feed off of you? Because it cannot survive unless you feed it.
Mm.
And it likes to be fed. That's for sure. It wants you to indulge. And it's a difficult thing to discern, I'll say that, because many times a lot of these reactions are something that we had learned when we were little. It's a family habit, let's say. You know, we always, if we get angry, we always do this. This is how we express our anger. It's like, well, you know, that doesn't really help anybody now, does it? Is that what you really want to do? Is there another way to express it so that you can get the frustration out and solve the problem instead of perpetuating the problem? It's part of being human down here. We got to figure a way to choose life at all points, and that's not easy. I guess maybe the most obvious example is, and I think we've said this before, when someone's life is truly in danger, and a complete stranger seeing this will go and put his own life on the line to try to save this person. They don't know each other. There's no relationship. But the acknowledgement that this life is in danger, and they do everything they can to save it. That connection, life, choosing life, because most people say, well, you're choosing death because you're probably going to die if you try to save that person. No. That person's actually choosing life. But it's not his own life. It's understanding it's life that is precious. And frankly, talking to any of them, they'd say, no, it's the obvious choice. You know, they wouldn't be able to live with themselves, if they didn't put their effort out into trying to save this life, to help perpetuate this life. It's a marvelous thing that we have as human beings, that spirit inside. It's automatic.
And it's funny, you say honoring life extends beyond human beings for human beings, and even into some animals. You see this when people will risk everything to save a pet. They'll run into a burning building to save an animal. And you say, well, it's just an animal. But it's not. That you see yourself in that other, and if it's a human being, you see yourself in that other, and you honor that. You honor it in the same way, you honor that life in the same way that you honor your own life at that basic level, at the heart level. And as you just said, Margaret, the decision is not, you don't look at it and say, well, I'm going to have a doctor's appointment next Tuesday. I really can't, pull over and save this person. It's beyond all that. You see the other, and in that moment of now, the reality of it becomes the paramount thing. It strips away all pretense. And, you see it in any life and death situation. You can see it in the cancer wards with the children. We could go into that, but we don't have to. But all of us have that capacity in the exigent moment when you see the other as you. And what are you really seeing? You're seeing that your being and their being are the same. And you mentioned this earlier. The common thread is not that you're like, oh, well, I have to save this person because, what will people think of me if I don't do it? No. The common thread is life as its embodiment sees life, sees the being as its other embodiment, says, that is me. We are both the same. My spirit won't let me live with myself, which is a great phrase. I couldn't live with myself. What does that really mean? I mean, you don't really have a choice. but the dishonor that you would bring upon your own self, your own being, in ignoring the obvious threat to the other being, that you wouldn't do your utmost. Whether you succeed or fail is not the question. The point is that you throw yourself 100% without any thought of, well, as you said, well, maybe you're going to die. No, it doesn't matter in that moment. None of that is considered. You put yourself, your whole being, as the honoring of the other being. Okay.
You become true to your being.
Yes, exactly.
You're not thinking of the concept, oh, well, this is good or this is bad. It's like, no, this is.
Beyond all that.
This is life. And you honor it. The understanding that you could not live peacefully with yourself unless you tried your hardest. And even then, even if you lose, it's difficult. But you understand you put everything you had into it. And frankly, you probably feel like, I'd rather I have died than this other person.
It's truly, and we also talk about this, Margaret, as the heroic act. It's the act of a hero. And when people say a hero, it's a lot of different concepts what a hero is. It's a Marvel superhero or something. That's not really it. The heroic act is an act of being which does not consider self or your continued existence as the paramount thing. The paramount thing is that the other, or the spirit which is within all of us, is what you're putting your effort into. Your effort is eternal. The heroic act is an act of eternal. It's why when you have a true heroic act, even whether you succeed or fail, the heroism in and of itself has an eternal quality to it. You can look at some deed of selfless heroism, we give it that term. What it really means is that this deed echoes through the ages, and it deserves recognition because of that. Whether you fail or succeed is no longer at all even the issue, because there's no failure, there's no success, there's just the being state of doing it. And in that moment, which is sort of like the moment of creation, it's sort of like the moment of now, you transcend time. You transcend your own soul and incarnation and present time. And you now, that act outlives you because it's much greater and much vaster than you. An act of being cannot be encompassed within the body, nor within the mind, or the emotions, or even the soul. An act of being is an act which is echoing back to spirit, to creator, to the universe. And when it's related to all those who are incarnate, and it's witnessed or retold, you immediately feel at some basic level that this was an act which is beyond. It's beyond the ordinary. It's way into the superordinary, not the supernatural, but the superordinary. That which transcends the mundane in an amazing way. And you can say, yes, that act, that heroic act, lives in and of itself. It has its own. It becomes its own. It becomes its own presence.
Life is established in that moment, and it continues.
And it continues, exactly.
Establishing life moment to moment is almost like seeds that you are sowing out into the world. And acts of kindness. Everyone always says that. You never know what an act of kindness will wind up doing. So if you understand that you are throwing seeds out there with every choice you make, it gives you a purpose for your life. You are a sower within this realm. What is it that you are planting? What are you trying to create? And if you keep choosing little deaths, you have to understand that you are perpetuating the death culture.
You're not sowing seeds anymore.
Well, you're not sowing life, because life grows. And it's an amazing thing. And it's when we are in high stress moments like that you realize this. Your mind wants to chitter at you and say, well, let's figure this out. And the truth is, it has nothing to do with the mind. The mind doesn't, the reasoning part of you doesn't understand life. You know, it sits there and goes, well, why do we have life? And it wants to give you all these observations on the outside. You have a heartbeat, you're breathing, you're eating, there's this. It's like, no. Life is more than that. That's just an outward measurement that the reasoning aspect of you can interact with. It doesn't interact on the deeper level. But your soul is so much deeper than that. And the funny thing is, your emotions, you touch into it and suddenly you're there within the emotion. But again, understanding that you are more than the thought and you're more than the emotion. there's an aspect of you that relates to the life that you're seeing in front of you, whether it's in danger or needs a moment where you can guide it into a broader space where it can grow. Nurturing life is something that this society needs to begin to look at again. I mean, there are many who just say, oh, well, you're talking about like being a farmer and planting a seed and harvesting, da-da-da-da-da. It's like, again, you're looking at the outward form. Do you understand what the heart task was at that moment? If you're planting, you're not planting because you're thinking of how much money you're going to get in your harvest. There is an aspect of that. But a farmer's life is very hard. And you can't do it unless you're called to it. Just like being a nurse or a doctor or a policeman, all of that is hard work. And your soul gets dragged over rough spots when you're in these tasks. But you do it because there's this internal calling within you that says, I must, because this is life, and I can help. And it's a beautiful thing that humans have. Beautiful.
Exactly. So, I love you go by these things so quickly. I have to go back. What you said before about, in essence, the honoring of life. When we talked about the stressful situations where you honor life, there are many other ones where you again have these timeless moments, and there are heroic acts. When you witness the birth of a child, whether it's your child or another child, this is a sort of a timeless moment that, at the moment of birth or at the first cry you hear from a newborn infant, there is an immediate being echo. You see that this being, this new incarnation, has a commonality with you. And it's why there's this immediate bonding between parent and child. But even a complete stranger, upon witnessing, and you can see this sometimes, I just saw it. This was just by random chance. There was this odd video where somebody was on their way to the hospital and unfortunately didn't make it, and they had this child in the parking lot. It was being witnessed by many people, 5 or 6 other people, or 2 police officers, a couple other people watching, and every one of them had the exact same expression on their faces. This mother gives birth in the parking lot, and it was this look of immediate and consuming wonder. Mm-hmm. Because awe, it's an awestruck moment. And why is it awestruck? It's also a being state. There are no words in that moment to appropriately describe. Your mind can't grasp it. It can put all kinds of things in front of it. Your emotions come up and fill you with something, with that awestruck state. But there's a vaster aspect to that. It's the same thing in the life and death situation. There's a vaster aspect. So these various situations, which aren't common, they shouldn't be, but yet they are immediately recognized by the heart, are what Deuteronomy is talking about. I've set before you life and death. And when you see someone at the moment of almost losing their life, it hits you. This is life and death. We even say it. This is life and death. When you see someone born into the world, this is life, and it makes you honor. When you see someone pass away, and this will unfortunately happen to us, of course, immediately, but to us, when we see a loved one who dies, perhaps we're there right in front of them and they pass away. This is a moment which evokes a beyond mental, very emotional, but beyond emotional calling of being. You're witnessing someone taking their last breath. You're witnessing someone take their first breath. You're witnessing someone on the precipice, the absolute apex between life and death, and these all call to the heroic in you, to the being in you. You're choosing life in each one of those situations. And it says so that you and your children may live, because, and it's using the same word in two different ways. You're choosing life because you're honoring the being in the other. And it's so that you may live with yourself in the moment of now. Be alive. Be. You know, the word here that choosing life is choosing being, and that so you may be. You choose to honor the vastness within all of us, which is life. And life and death are two sides of the coin here, but you choose life so that you may live, which is to be. One is a verb, and one is the being state of now, which is not a verb, but it's all. It's the all. So this passage is talking about those infrequent yet essential moments of being down here. Life and death, birth, death, and all the things in between, the moments of now, the experiential moments of now, the heroic moments of your life, which isn't every moment of your life, but you have in every moment the ability to choose life in every moment of now. Through every tiny little annoyance, and Tolle says this, your greatest teachers are all the idiots that are around you trying to distract you, because in those moments you have that breath, that instant to say, no, I'm going to choose gentleness. I'm going to choose kindness. I'm going to choose peace. I'm going to choose to not engage in the nonsense, and to, yes, it's still going to be there. You don't wave your wand and they just disappear in a puff of greasy black smoke. No, they're still there doing all the idiotic things, and you just have to say, okay, this is where they are right now. I'm going to be here. And in some way they'll feel that. We know that the other will feel that they, even though they are still unconscious, there's something there. There's a being state there. There's a clouded ray of light that's shining through, and they will feel it. But you are the one that is the source or the channel of that light. And you do that by doing exactly what Deuteronomy says. Choosing.
You are the awareness.
The awareness, yeah.
That shines bright in this darkness or confusion or chaos, whatever it may be. But the awareness is the light. And in that moment, you can choose pure light, or switch over to that which is dark. And this is what I would term choosing the little deaths.
Yeah.
Because this is not who you actually are. But I find it fascinating that, we have a tendency to go there. Why are we choosing little deaths all the time? And it's normally because the emotions that you feel are not allowed to run through you. In other words, emotions rise up, and they are very strong. They're waves of energy, frequency. So when you feel anger rising, and how many times have we, as human beings, you suddenly feel anger because somebody, say, looks like they did something to your child. Okay, that's like, no, that's instinctual. But do you actually understand what's actually going on? Is this only an appearance of something? That's where the self-control has got to come in. Understanding that you may not actually comprehend the fullness of what's happening right in front of you. And you've got to have enough self-control to harness your emotions and to discipline your thoughts and to discipline your body, because your initial reaction is fight or flight. You know, are you going to like punch somebody out, or are you going to run? Like, okay, control that. Have you ever tried controlling that?
Well,
it's very difficult unless you've disciplined yourself to that point where you can control it. And the only way that happens is if it's a repeated thing and you set a whole new habit form in. But that's another story.
Well, yeah, it is exactly. We didn't go into this very much, but you did mention it a couple of times. Is that the life is going to throw these things at you, regardless.
Always.
And the training oneself to, and we've talked about this many times, so we don't have to go into it too deeply here. You just listen to all of our other shows. But there's a lot of shows. But in fact, cultivating within oneself a being state and putting in front of you, in front of experience that is coming at you, two things. When experience comes, and by that I mean some crazy thing happens. Somebody cuts you off in traffic. Somebody comes running down your driveway doing crazy things. Somebody just comes into your presence, or some thing happens to you. All of a sudden, out of the blue, some little tragedy happens to you. Okay. You cultivate within yourself the ability to do kind of two things. Give yourself the moment to accept that this is the real moment of now. That it isn't what you wanted, maybe. It's not what you chose, or what you would prefer, what you liked or disliked. These are all egoic sort of things. These are all entity. Oh, I don't want this, I want that. I want to. Don't they realize I'm busy, I've got to do these? No. The real moment of now is at your doorstep. You have to accept it. And then you still have, in accepting it, people say, well, what do you mean? I don't have to do it. You still have the choice. Then you can say, is there anything I can do about it? This is kind of a two-part, very, very quick. Here it is, the moment of now. Here's my whatever it is, my fear, my anger, whatever. It all rises up. There it is, the moment of now. And then if you have that idea before you've practiced, if you've internalized, let's say, Deuteronomy, I've set before you life and death. I've set before you the whole crazy world, the whole crazy universe full of idiots. Every one of them, including you. And it pops up.
Yep.
And you have to accept, I'm an idiot and so are they. Great. Now, I've accepted
now
that.
What?
Now choose life and say, is there anything I can do about this? And it's a perfectly valid thing to say, nope, it's just going to have to be. But you're there. Now you're in the moment of now. Now you can appreciate the next moment of now. You don't have to try and spin off into crazy things about the future. What if this, what if that? And you have to go, these people are always horrible, and they come up, and it reminds me of my uncle from 20 years ago, blah, 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 in the past. No. You just say, here they are. Idiots at the doorstep. Oh, my God. Is there anything I can do about this? No, there isn't. Okay. Hi, idiots at the doorstep. How you doing? Or you can say, okay, the idiots are at the doorstep. Let's go out there and see if we can sweep them along so they aren't on the doorstep anymore. And you do that. That is choosing life so that you may live, so that you can stay in the moment of now, or very close to it, and that you can be your actual being, that you aren't being controlled and manipulated and led down the path, and made angry, made to be angry, made to be fearful, made to buy into their story, made to no longer live your life for you, but to give your energy into this little death, into this thing that wants to suck life off of you. So don't do that. Be you, which is difficult, but you are right there. So be who you are. Accept that the universe, you're not special. You're unique and wonderful and made in the image and likeness of God. But you're not special. So is everybody else. And despite all the things which are in the world, that are wonderful. There are certain things which aren't so wonderful, and you have to accept that that's just part of being in the world, that when they happen, there they are. And it's perfectly good. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're accepting the moment of now is what it is. You're saying, is there anything I can do about it? And if there isn't, you just say, okay. Because there's a next moment of now. And whatever's happening in this one isn't going to happen in the next one. There'll be something different in every new moment of now. And that's living. That's so that you and your children may live. Choosing life. Being in the moment of now. So that you can live to the next moment of now.
Right. It's understanding that what you're doing right now is what you are perpetuating. So if you're choosing to give, that generosity is what is going outward, and it comes back to you.
Yeah.
You choose to teach and learning, because that's what happens when you teach. You never stop learning. And it's an amazing thing, because there is no limit to the amount of things that you can learn. And if you're seeing someone else's pain, and you go to comfort, and you send out that comforting warmth to this other person, allowing them the space to feel what they need to feel. You understand that comfort also comes back to you and surrounds you with that. You're clothing yourself at that moment in love. Steps into unconditional love. And when that happens, it's an internal joy of being that happens. Mm-hmm. Joy is not it's not based on whether you're happy about what's going on. Happiness is an event thing, what's going on in your life. Joy is a state of being. And joy means that you are choosing life. You are choosing love. You're choosing that higher instead of lower. You're choosing mercy. You're choosing peace and patience. You're choosing to be kind, even though you may not want to be. Okay? And choosing to be gentle when you are feeling angry. Very difficult.
Yeah, I think the joy part is so essential, because you can be joyful in under any circumstances. Joy can still be with you, and it has, as you said, nothing to do with happiness, but it has everything to do with being in the being state.
And I want to bring up the point that being faithfulness, people think this is being faithful to life.
Yeah.
Even when you've been abandoned by someone or a group or something, you're faithful still to eternal life. And that speaks volumes.
Yeah, and it's the choice. And we have to choose to end our show.
All right, we have reached the end of our hour. And I'm Margaret.
And I'm Michael.
And thank you for listening.